Ladies and gentlemen, please rise. And now to honor America, please join in the singing of our national anthem. Representing the three-time Stanley Cup champion New Jersey Devils, Arlette.
I feel like I'm at a game. Oh my gosh. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the
Happy Devils Sunday! This is the Let's Go Devils podcast, Season 3, Episode 45, titled Real Jersey Blood. And boy, did we bring real Jersey blood here tonight. And somebody's playing the show in the background. I don't care. I'm just going to go through my monologue. We have a special guest tonight, Stanley Cup champion, former New Jersey Devils alumnus, Jim Dowd is in the Primetime Virtual Studio tonight with guest hosts Kevin Clark and Pete Cannarozzi filling in for George guy who's on assignment somewhere in Wildwood. We can't locate him right now. We don't know where he is. And also we have Scott and Scotty joining in as well. Jim, thank you so much for coming on to the podcast. It's a big Jersey day this Sunday.
Nice. Thanks for having me, guys. Good to be here.
Yeah, Jim, Thank you so much, man. We were just to kind of like jump right into it, because that's usually how we roll here. So we were talking a little bit off air. And one of the things I wanted to ask you is winning the cup with the Devils, being from New Jersey. I know you've probably been asked this 1.5 million times, especially anybody in New Jersey bump into you in the street and like, what was it like? What was it like winning the cup for the Devils? But what was it like? What was it like going through that, winning the cup with your home state? I know that's a question you hear all the time, but I mean, I can't imagine.
No, yeah, it was. I mean, there's no words to describe it. Really, it's surreal. You know what I mean? I mean, I remember I graduated high school in 1987, and 87, 88. That's when the Devils had that great run. And I remember when I was in high school, there's Bruce Driver, John McClain, Kenny Danico. I've told the story 1,000 times more, maybe, in my up on my walls in my bedroom, you know. And then, you know, Cup went to Lake State, and then 4, 5, 6 years later, not only having them posters on my wall, but playing with those guys. Not only that, but winning a cup. It was pretty amazing, pretty surreal, and just a great group of guys that were all business. You know, if we lost one game, those guys weren't smiling until we won again. We lost 2 games, forget about it. It was like the world was coming to an end. But that's why these, you know, they had success in that. The veterans on that team treated everybody, you know, like they were a huge part of the team, whether you're on the first line, second, fourth, sixth, seventh, eighth D, the backup goalie, guys just getting called up from the minors. It was amazing.
You know, it's funny, during that cup run, one thing that stood out the most is when we heard that Melissa got in contact with you and was able to help you, come onto the podcast. I remember this newscast like it was yesterday. There was a local news station that ran this whole story about you being from New Jersey, going to the Stanley Cup Finals. And as a kid, I was, 13 at the time. I remember being so proud. I was like, man, this dude's from New Jersey. And we were so pumped to have somebody from our home state, playing for the Stanley Cup. You were like a hero to like all of us kids, like playing, street hockey. We were like, man, I'm the next Jim Dowd. Check this out. You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy to think how many kids you probably inspired to play hockey by just making that run to the cup.
I mean, it's crazy. Like I said, the Devils moved here in '82. I never was a huge sports fan of any particular team, but if I rooted for anybody, I guess I rooted for the Rangers up until '82 when the Devils moved here. And, everybody from our area actually hated the Flyers, and then the Devils moved here in '82. How old was I? I think I was 13 years old when the Devils moved here in '82. And then 5 years later, getting drafted by them, I mean, it was amazing. So, but to be, put on a pedestal with the kids is a pretty good feeling, So, and it's just exciting. That's why I was so fired up, when they got Kyle Palmieri. Not that he was born in New Jersey, but he's a Jersey guy. You consider him a Jersey guy. And I wish they'd get, both Van Riemsdyks, Johnny Gaudreau, get all the Jersey guys, get them on the Devils, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, that'd be pretty sweet, right?
Guys like that are, New Jersey's turning into a quiet little hotbed of hockey. It's, when I grew up, played for the Brick Hockey Club and Brick High School, if we would go up to Massachusetts, we'd lose 15-1, 14-2, 12-0. We didn't have a chance. Now, I've been coaching for the last 11 years. I have two boys of my own. You go anywhere in the country in North America, we compete and beat anybody. That's how far hockey's come. So to be put on a pedestal like that with the young kids, it's a great feeling.
Kevin,
you got a question for Jim?
No, I just, if you can, I'd like to make a comment. This will top Jim's story about winning the Stanley Cup by a lot. No, I'm just kidding. Funny story about that. That was the year that there was, I don't want to use the wrong terminology, was there a strike or a lockout?
Lockout, yeah.
Anyway,
lockout.
Right. So the season was extended a little bit. So the end of June, the Devils are on their run. I've got a trip to Disney World planned. Not happy about that, but we went. It was a family thing. And I'll never forget when that number 11 for the Devils scored to win game two. I was in Disney Village in a Disney store, and they had the game on the TV. I was at the checking out, and they had the game, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, and then you scored, and I started jumping around like a knucklehead by myself in the middle of this Disney store, not knowing that the people behind me, 10, were from Detroit, Michigan. They were not happy with it at all.
Time out, Kevin. I was in Disney World myself that game too.
What a small world.
I was 15 years old, and I kind of remember something very similar, and I had a Pittsburgh Penguins fan, like an 8-year-old, practically telling me off that the Devils suck. And it was, I think it was in, what is that, Pleasure Island or that Disney Village or something like that. The treasure, yeah. Anyway, sorry.
Pleasure Island, something else, buddy.
Yeah, but it's something like that. But yeah,
I had to get the Disney plug-in, right? Are we covered?
Yeah, we're covered.
Yeah.
Checks in the
We all have Disney Plus. We all have Disney Plus subscriptions now. No problem. Boom.
I'm sure you where people were when you scored that goal, but I had to get that one in there. It was those 10 people from Detroit. I thought they were gonna, beat me over the head with some dolls or something that night.
Nice. Yeah, you hear all sorts of different stories about that night. So that was a great night to say the least. My youngest brother John was out there at the game in Michigan. In Detroit, you couldn't hear a pin drop in the place when that happened. But I think it was a minute 24, minute 26 left. So, not only to score that goal, but to be out on the ice with only under 2 minutes left was great.
Pete?
Pete, do you got a
Pete.
question for Jim?
Sure. Hey, Jim. We've never met, but I know all about you. I've read all about you. I've heard all about you from being with the Devils and talking to the guys that you were on the team with. And I was wondering, I was the organist just for a couple of years when we won the Cup in 2003. And so we were in Game 7 against the Ducks, and about 5 minutes left, and everybody knew we were going to win the Cup. We just knew it. So what was it like for you in that last game when you knew it? At what point on the clock was it when you knew, like, man, this is it?
You know, I can't even remember, but it was we were up, I think 5-2. But you just see that we were nervous as all get up going into that series, because remember they were the President's Trophies winners that year, and everyone was pegging them to sweep us. Nobody, I don't think one person gave us a chance. Not one person, all the experts. And we from Game 1 through Game 4, we just didn't let off the gas pedal at all, and we knew we couldn't because they were ready to explode at any time, and we just shut them down the whole time. And you know, it was an amazing series, total team effort. But that Game 4 there, just, you know, I guess it was maybe 10 minutes left in the third, but it's still so surreal, you know, and it's nothing happens till that last second goes off that clock. But it was amazing. You look back at that roster, that Detroit team. I mean, I don't know how many Hall of Famers they had. Mark Howe was on that team. Dino Ciccarelli was on that team. You know, I mean,
Paul
Coffey, Vernon, Eiserman. I mean, Keith Primo, he was young. I mean, you know, Joey Coach, who I ended up playing with in Vancouver, was a great guy. I mean, that team was. I mean, you don't get to the finals not having an amazing team, you know. Right. But yeah, it was just, that was incredible, and I still call it the Brendan Byrne Arena. So I love that place.
Yeah. So even like you said, you were like 10 minutes.
Brendan Byrne Arena.
You said there's like 10 minutes left. So you're either on the bench or you're in a shift. You know, so you're not thinking about that. You're just thinking about playing the game. You don't realize that you're going to win the Cup in 10 minutes. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, you know, you're so focused, you know, because if you let up for 1 second, I mean, that's why the playoff sports are great. Baseball, football, basketball, hockey. One play can change the whole game and change the whole entire series. You can't let up for 1 second. You make a mistake, you got to move forward. You can't look back. You know, you do something good, you can't sit there and wallow in it. You know, you just got to keep moving forward. You know, and just it's all just straight ahead. Get those blinders on, and you got a job to do, and you just got to get it done. It's not easy to win championships. I try to explain to people, if it was easy to win championships, everyone would have a Little League baseball championship. You're like, what do you mean? Well, think about it. Every town in America has Little Leagues. How many championships? There's one a year. That's it. Not many people have a Little League championship. So to win it at the highest level, it's unbelievable. Some of the guys, Hall of Famers, even so to speak, that have never won a Stanley Cup.
Jim, I want to actually get back to the Game 2 a little later on, because that was such an important game for that series with everything that happened. Not only your winner, but Scott Stevens, the hit, as we know it as Devils fans, and Scott Niedermayer actually scoring that, coast-to-coast goal as well, all happening in that game. But to go back, you were talking about, being a high school player in New Jersey and seeing that the programs have grown so much. Can you take me back to, when you were drafted by the Devils and some of your early, recollections of Mr. Lamorello and Dr. McMullen as well?
Yeah, actually, I was I grew up playing hockey, the Brick Hockey Club, my whole life.
You set a lot of records, too.
Yeah.
High school and collegiate. Well, come on, let's rattle some off here. Come on, tell everyone that doesn't know about, the record of Jim Dowd over here. You set a lot of records in high school and college.
Yeah, it all started in high school, the Brick Hockey Club. And then I played for the Monmouth Hawks for a couple years. Then I went back to the Brick Hockey Club and played all the way through Brick High School. Sophomore year, broke all the records and all that. And then got a lot of publicity in my junior year. People started watching. Because back then, nobody was coming out of New Jersey, really. Like, absolutely nobody. Right. If you weren't from Minnesota, Massachusetts, Michigan, or Chicago, or Detroit area, they didn't even look at you, And
you were the second or third out of New Jersey high school?
Well, actually, the first and only New Jersey native to never leave here. Max Middendorf, actually, he played for the Rockets and for the St. Joseph Montville High School, but he left after his junior year to go to the OHL. I never left. I played Brick High School, Brick Hockey Club, all the way up. Drafted right out of Brick High School. You know, Max was drafted out of the OHL. So in one sense, I'm very proud of that I never left. You know, I would, you call a really homegrown kid, basically homegrown kid. You know, and I love all these kids. Like in another one is, you know, James Van Reems left after his sophomore year to go to the national program. So he's homegrown, but not as much as I was. But his brother Trevor played all the way through high school, right through CBA, totally homegrown, you know, and then went to play juniors after his senior year of high school. And he played for the New Jersey Titans, you know, organization. You know, Johnny Gaudreau left after his sophomore year, I think, or junior year, went to the USHL, you know. But I'm very proud to say that I never left, played Brick Hockey Club, Brick High School, you know, and as they say, the rest is history. But it all started, and actually Max McNabb was the GM when I got drafted. So I got a great draft story. So
oh, wow. Oh, that's, all right. I'm off on my years. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
It was Marshall Johnson was the director of player development. He used to come watch my high school games. I'll never forget Montclair Arena. You know, he'd come see me after the games. This was my senior year. And then I committed to Lake Superior in November or whatever that was, my senior year, signed the letter of intent. And the draft is coming up in June. And my college coach, Frank Anzalone, said, "Hey, Jimmy, you know, he called me up and said, you're probably going to get drafted." I said, "Oh, wow, you know." I wasn't even paying attention to it or anything. And I said, I never told anybody this story till years later. When he told me that, I just said to myself, okay, it'd be pretty cool to get drafted, but the only team I did not want to get drafted by was the Devils because I thought it was going to be a charity pick. You know what I mean? Thinking, okay, because there were 12 rounds back. I'm thinking they're going to take me if they do. That's the only team I didn't want to get drafted by because I thought it would have been a charity pick. Any other team, you know, it wouldn't have been a charity pick. Even if it was in the 10th, 11th round, it wouldn't have been a charity pick. Lo and behold, when I got that call by Marshall Johnston saying you were drafted by the Devils and it was in the 8th round, I was like, wow, that's pretty cool because they had 12 rounds back then. You know, so then I proceeded to go to a party that night and have a little fun. So it was great.
Jersey style.
Playing hockey and baseball, just having fun. You know, wasn't even thinking about college hockey or anything. It just all worked out. You know, just some great people came into my life. Frank Anzalone, my college coach at Lake State, Jeff Jackson, the assistant coach, Jim Rock, the other assistant. Obviously, Coach Bob Oriema, Jim Plunkett. The list goes on and on and on. People that helped me along the way. You know, but Max McNabb, he was the guy. He's, you know, that was the year that Turgeon went first overall. Brendan Shanahan went second. You know, we had a great draft year. I mean, Ben Hankins, Brian Sullivan, Ben Hankinson, Kevin Dean. You know, we had a really good draft year that year, the Devils. And that was all Max McNabb. And then Lou came in the next year. Lou came in because that was Lou's first year. They had that run.
Mm-hmm.
They lost to the Bruins in the finals.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Jim, I have a question, a two-part question. Growing up, how influential was that 1980 Team USA Miracle team? Growing up, watching them win gold medal, beating the Soviets in the semifinal round, and then actually win it. Did it have an impact, you know, on hockey in your career, seeing the boys win it all?
Oh, definitely. Anybody in the U.S. That's actually when it probably, even though they won the 1960 Olympics, you never heard about that. But the 1980 Olympics, you know, I remember it was, I believe it was a Saturday. And we got home from a game. We were watching it, you know, at our house there. Had a friend over. And it was amazing that they beat the Russians, you know. And then not only that, people forget that they had to beat, you know, the Finns. The next, if they would have tied or lost to the Finns, they wouldn't have won the gold medal. And, you know, the Finns said, Pelle Lindbergh. I mean, they go out. And once again, a lot of people don't realize this. Every single game in the Olympics, they were behind. They came back from behind every single game. And the best story of this all is that, so I graduate Lake State. The Devils tried to get me to sign after my junior year of college. I said, no, I wanted to go back and graduate. We had a great team, you know, and they were loaded at center anyway. I went back, graduated, had a great year, ended up signing. I signed for more money than he offered me anyway, and I still started in the minor leagues. But it was great because Lou brought in Herb Brooks to be our coach in Utica because a bunch of us had panned out from the 1987, 88, 89 draft. We had a bunch of young guys. So he brought him in basically to teach us about the lifestyle and just being a good human being and what's it like to be a professional. So getting sent down to the minors was like, oh, this is great. I'm going to play for Herb Brooks. It's Not too bad. So it's pretty amazing, man. He's one of the most best human beings I've ever met in my life, hands down. You know, forget hockey, just a great, great human being. But that was huge for all of us, especially my generation. You know, players. That Olympic team to do what they did was incredible.
Well, I got to tell you, my generation, I was about 14, 15 years old when you won that cup. The way that Team USA team impacted you impacted every kid from Jersey playing hockey that, hey, that could be me one day. And that totally changed the dynamics because back then, not many kids from Jersey made it into the NHL. And to have one homegrown and be a New Jersey Devil, that impact, you have no idea, Jim, how impactful that was. Because from then on, I felt like I can actually make it. I can actually make my team. And I went as far as making my college club team. Just because of that moment, it's like, wow, I actually have a chance. Back then, it was just like kids from Canada or kids from Minnesota or Boston. But when a Jersey guy does it and wins the cup in New Jersey, it changed the whole dynamics. And I'm sure people may have told you that, but you have no idea. As a kid growing up and watching that moment, it meant the world. Where I tried harder, believing that I could, whereas in the past I thought, by 18 I'll stop, but it never did for me. So I wanted to just. That's what it's all about.
I mean, I appreciate it, and that's what it's all about. I mean, it's great to. I can't believe we don't have we do have a Division I team. It's Princeton, but nobody grows up in New Jersey says, I want to go play hockey at Princeton. You know what I mean? You grow up in Minnesota, you want to play for the Gophers, you want to play Minnesota Duluth or Mankato, you go to Wisconsin, you want to play for Wisconsin Badgers. You go to North Dakota, you want to play the Fighting Sioux. You go to Boston, you want to play for BC, BU, Northeastern, or Harvard. If you grow up in Maine, you want to play the University of Maine. We have nothing here right now, and hopefully we get a Division I. It would be great if Rutgers got one, put them in the Big Ten, But it really is great and amazing. And I forgot another guy, Dave Williams, who was a kid from Chatham who grew up, and made it to the NHL. He left and went to Choate Prep School after his junior year, But again, there's been a few, but now, there's no hesitation right now. There's Jersey kids everywhere. There's more and more, Like I said, I just rattled off the two Van Riemsdijks, Kyle Palmieri,
George
Parros. Parros went to Princeton.
Yep. George Parros. Johnny Gaudreau. There's more kids getting drafted now. Anthony Stolarz from New Jersey. Hopefully he comes back after that knee injury. But it's so great to see. And again, hockey is booming. When I grew up, I think there were 12 youth organizations in all of New Jersey. There's over 30-something right now. When I grew up, there was maybe 40 high schools. If that, there's over 130. And awesome. It not only is it good for hockey as far as kids playing hockey, but it's great for the Devils, for a fan base as well. So that's what it's all about. You just got to give people hope no matter what it is, and give kids hope, and don't tell somebody they can't do something. You can do anything.
Yeah, and I think kind of piggybacking off of what Sam said, and what you're just saying, going from having 30 high school, 40 high school teams to 130, like you're just saying, the Devils winning that cup in 95 is everything that's happening now in this state is a direct culmination of all that work, everything that happened. And like you said, all the chips kind of fell into place. You know what I mean? So having the opportunity to be drafted by the Devils, I actually love that story that you said you didn't want to be drafted by the Devils because you didn't want it to be a charity pick. I think that's one of the coolest things. You don't really think about that, but all those little things happening, winning the cup, and it created a boom. I coached in an outdoor roller hockey league for over 10 years that would have never existed if the Devils didn't, exist in New Jersey. If you didn't exist in New Jersey, you know what I mean? I'm sorry we keep singing your praises about this, but it's the reality. It's the truth. As a kid, when we were growing up, this was you were like the local hero, like the guy that made it. And it was this is why a lot of kids started playing hockey, and the whole reason why a bunch of us, went down that path. But another thing that I want to bring up too, that I find super cool, just sitting here talking with you, is your knowledge of the game is so impressive. And it's not just like, oh yeah, I know like this. When you were rattling off the names in your draft class, like going like 1, 2, 3, 4, like I find that so impressive. Like what do you do? Do you like study the game a lot, or is it just your love and passion for the game that you know so much, or how do you get so like?
I don't know. It was something about hockey. I mean, I grew up and played every sport, but hockey and baseball were my two favorite sports. There's 5 boys in my family. I have 4 brothers and a sister. I come from a big family, and I just something about hockey, stuff like that just sticks with me. I could see I could not watch the NHL for 3 months. Not that I never do. I watch it every night, but I cannot watch it for like 3 months. Watch it for 2 days, and I'll be caught up on everything just like that. For some reason, with hockey and my mind, it's just that's how it is. But it's just one of those things. I just grew up love shooting pucks in the backyard and just for fun, not saying I'm ever going to get anywhere. I just love doing it, and then all of a sudden I kept getting better and better and better, and I'll never forget, I was thinking, it really clicked, not even after I got drafted, but my freshman year at Lake State. I'm thinking, was because people asked me, when did you really think you could make it to the NHL? It was during my freshman year at Lake Superior. I'm like, I'm sitting here playing with these, because I went right from high school right to Lake State. And most kids go into college hockey, 19 or 20-year-olds. I went right in out of high school, which was unheard of, especially public high school. And that's when I realized I could play in the NHL, And it was like, I'm playing with these guys that are drafted in the first, second, third round. These kids are signing right after that year. I'm like, I'm making it. I know I can, And, there's a difference between you think you can do something. When you can do something, you're going to do it. If you think, it might happen, it might not. But when it's in your mind and you can do it, no matter what it is, and that's what happened with me. But I mean, I'll give you a couple other stories about hockey. Like, I can watch somebody once or play with them just one time, and I know which way they shoot the rest of my life.
That's so cool.
For whatever reason, I don't know why.
It's funny. We talked to Scotty, and I met Martin Brodeur, and we're just kind of hanging out at this place. And when we were sparking up a conversation, and he was talking, they played the Islanders the night before, and we're like, man, that's a great game. And he brought up a breakaway that Grabner had on him.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget like the detail as he's like talking about it. It wasn't just like, oh yeah, it was a fun game. It was like you just said, how you can remember everybody's shot.
Yeah.
Or you can remember those little. It's insane.
Yeah.
Like I love that, hearing like that kind of thing. To me, is one of the most impressive things about professional athletes, when they have that recall, being able to be like, yeah, I know exactly how he's going to play. You know what I mean? It's like, I think that's so cool.
Yeah, because I think
I think when Rutgers goes D1, I think we know who should be the top candidate for the coach.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go. I agree with that, Pete. I mean, it's about time that we get, besides Princeton, it's about time we get a Division I hockey. I think a perfect spot would be Rutgers and or Monmouth University. Monmouth University is all D1 sports. They can go right in the Atlantic Conference there with AIC, Holy Cross, Sacred Heart, all those schools. And then Rutgers goes right in with the Big Ten.
Mm-hmm. Playing Michigan.
Yeah, the Big Ten. Big Ten's Penn State, Minnesota, Michigan, Michigan State, Ohio State,
Wisconsin,
hockey program.
Wisconsin. Get them right in there with them. My oldest son Jimmy. Yeah, my oldest son Jimmy, who's 19, I coach him all the way up. He's going into Penn State next year for hockey, so he's excited. And my youngest son Anthony, who's just 17, he committed to Providence, Lou's old stomping grounds.
There you go. There you go.
Very nice. Very nice.
And he's all fired up that my son Anthony's going there. So he just committed to Providence for hockey. So 2 great schools, two great academic schools, and 2 great hockey schools. So I'm very fortunate, my wife and I.
Very cool.
Good for you. Congratulations.
Kevin, do you have a question for Jim, Kevin?
No, not so much a question, more of a comment. I think what everybody said about how things in the state kind of spawned from what you did with the Devils, and the growth of hockey really started with your career in high school and then college, and then with the Devils, and how things have grown with the state. I also want to mention that I think the Devils have done a great job, using their alumni and also trying to prosper the game throughout the state as we speak. I think they do a great job with within the communities and trying to foster the growth of the game within, you name it, anywhere in the state and even in the inner cities, trying to get kids involved. And again, that all spawns from what Jim started and what he continues to do with the team.
Yeah, it's like I said, hockey, it's grown unbelievable. Like who was just saying about the roller rinks too, roller hockey, everything in New Jersey. You know, I mean, there's so many youth organizations. Actually, there's almost too many. You know, because it just waters down everything. But you know, the more rinks, the better. You know, I mean, you go to a place like Minnesota. I mean, it's part of the culture. Every single town has an indoor and outdoor rink, at least one of them. You know, like if this were Minnesota, I'll give you an example. If this were Minnesota, a town like Brick Township, New Jersey, would probably have at least 4 indoor rinks, and they would have 2 or 3 outdoor rinks. You know, Point Pleasant Beach, which is a tiny town of 5,500, would have their own indoor rink and outdoor rink. Point Pleasant Borough would have their own indoor rink and outdoor rink. You know, that's Minnesota right there. But I mean, New Jersey, there's more and more rinks, and the more the better, because just get everyone playing hockey. You know, like let's go. It's such an amazing and unique sport, and people, there's no in between. They love it, and it's not even that they hate it. It's like they just don't want anything to do with it, or they love it. There's really no in between with hockey. You know, football, baseball, basketball, people can like it. Yeah, let's go to the game. It's that. Hockey, it's like it's got its own little niche. You know, and that's why it's going to be great if the season does come back this year before baseball, football, and basketball, because we'll probably grab some new fans.
Yeah, that's a good segue. I got a question for you. Who do you like watching in today's game?
I watch everybody, obviously, but I like obviously I watched Jack Hughes, not only because he was the first one picking the Devils, because my son played against him last year. You know what I mean? It was in the USHL, and I watched some of those young guys. I watch all the Jersey guys. I follow them. Even the guys in the minors, I follow them. You know, like Anthony Stolarz when he's up and down. Like I really hope he can get back from that knee injury and make it. And you know, I think the Devils should sign him. I think the Devils should sign every New Jersey kid they can. But, I follow everybody. Obviously, Connor McDavid. It's just people ask me like when I played. You know, it's obviously Wayne Gretzky, Mario Lemieux. Nobody was even close to those guys. You know, but McDavid and Crosby. I really, really love Nathan McKinnon. He is. He makes it look so easy out there. There's so many good young players right now. And, you know, I got the hockey package, so I'm up till 2 a.m. watching games late at night. That was this whole debacle that's going on right now, you know. Even though I do love watching the old, I really wish they would play more games from the 50s, 60s, and 70s, you know. You know, I love watching the old games, too. But I keep tabs on everybody.
Jim, just to follow up on what Kevin said, what are your thoughts on, the Devils' young players, mainly Nico Hischier and Jack Hughes? Did anything that Jack did when you saw him, with your son, did anything that his shot stick in your memory,
Yeah, he's just so smooth and so good. And he just came into obviously everybody was fired up. They signed some guys. Everybody was hoping Corey Schneider would come back and have a rebound year, but it just all fell apart after that opening night 4-goal lead in the third period. And they just could never bounce back from that, But yeah, Jack Hughes, he's going to be fine. I love Nico Hischier. He's great. Gusev, that was a great pickup. And Kyle Palmieri, man, that getting better and better. I really love watching him play, man. That guy can shoot the puck, and he knows when to shoot, when to pass. Jesper Bratt, was it 2 or 3 years ago? Not that he came out of nowhere, but I watched him all through training camp, and he just kept getting better and better. And every time he was in a preseason game, he was one of the best players in the ice. And then it was sort of a bummer they got rid of Coleman, but I guess, hey, even the season's going like it was, you got to try to get something in return. But I really liked him as a player. Travis Zajac, who I played with when I was 39 when the Devils brought me back for a year. I thought they were going to trade him to get something. But he's a steady player, So at this point, I'd like to see him finish out his career with the Devils. Miles Wood, I really like him, man. I love his energy. I love watching him play. He got that contract squabble out of the way. I'm hoping that Will Butcher can keep moving forward. This was only his second year, right? So he was having a little bit of And PK Subban, people, they love him or hate PK. I really hope the Devils can come back next year, and he comes back and has a good year. And I'm really rooting for Corey Schneider, because career with the Vancouver Canucks was a little bit of the press out there in Canada is a freaking nightmare. And him and Luongo had a great relationship, and they were trying to just stir controversy. And then he comes to the Devils thinking he's going to replace Marty. Then he has the injury, and he just never recovered from the injury. But I'm hoping he can. I'm really rooting for him. 2 more years on his contract. So, and no one's taking him at $6 million. So hopefully he can come back and get off to a good start. Pavel Zacha, hey, it takes time. Especially this is a young team. I mean, the whole league's young, but these guys are really young.
Yeah,
they're really
making strides though as the season went on.
What's that?
They seem to be making strides, though, and especially Pavel Zacha as the season went on. You saw him playing, a better game, a complete game. He was good on the defensive side, but now he started to put a little offensive touch on there as well. Especially that last 2 weeks or so when he was playing with Nikita Gusev.
Yeah. He's like I said, and these guys are still all young guys. They just gotta keep building through the draft. And I mean, the bottom line is everybody's got to have. They got to play a team game. Everybody has to have a good, solid year, better than last year. And Jack Hughes, I believe, will be fine. It's been tough for him. You know what I mean? And they do have to pick up a couple D. They got rid of Andy Green, who was a great leader and all that. But I guess it was time for him to move on. That was a great pickup for the Islanders at this point in time in his career. So you just got to. Taylor Hall, that whole thing, who knows what happened there, you know what I mean? But it's actually probably good that they got.
Yeah. We watched it too.
Yeah.
Well, we also saw improvement play in Nico Hischier and others. I think it was just a pressure and a stress with all that going on that once that trade went through, the team was like, and they kind of relaxed a little and started playing a lot better.
Yeah, definitely. It was like, because when he was out there, it was his puck and nobody else's. Even though he had great chemistry with Hischier, and the 1 year, I mean, the thing on him is he's always hurt. The 1 year he wasn't hurt, look what he did. 95 points, he's MVP of the league. They have a great run. You know what I mean? But you need that every single year. It's tough. I mean, this day and age, too, every team is so close. I mean, you win 2 or 3 games, you're in 3rd or 4th place. You lose 2 or 3 games, you're out of the playoffs. You win 5 in a row, you're back up. Top 3. You lose 5 in a row, you're back down to 14th in the league. I mean, it's insane. It's just I don't even know what it's like to be a coach in the NHL, but it's got to be so much harder now than it was back in the day. Because there were games you knew you were going in, you weren't losing. It was just how much you're going to beat them by. Now with the salary cap and all that, you're not going to have any great teams anymore. Just a bunch of really good teams.
Yeah. It's true.
Pete, do you have a question for Jim?
Jim, picking up on what Scotty said earlier about your vast knowledge of the game and the legacy that you bring from winning a Stanley Cup and the passion that you have, the experience from all your years, and you mentioned that you're coaching. So how do you convey all those great things that you brought with you from the game when you're coaching? And second of all, do they know who you are? Like, wow, if I was a kid playing for you, I'd be like, oh my gosh. Do they know who you are, or it's just, you're just their coach?
Well, my last season was 07-08. So 08-09, I went right into coaching. Yeah, they knew who I was. Now it's more so the parents know who I am. But yeah, they do. Yeah, they do. They do, and that's where I got to be careful too, because I'm not just their coach, but I am who I am. And not only did I play in the NHL, but I'm the first one in the New Jersey native to do that with the Devils and win a cup. So I got to be careful about how I act with the people because, you could start a business giving away free money and people will still hate you. So I am with kids and all that, but I actually love it. I've enjoyed it. I've coached both my boys all the way up. I don't have to coach them anymore. I'm still going to be helping with the New Jersey Titans organization, where both my boys committed to D1 out of there, which is amazing. The New Jersey Titans right in Middletown, New Jersey there. So Again, both my boys went there when they were ready for AAA and committed. Jimmy his first year, Anthony his second year. So it's been a crazy ride. But I love being on the ice. I love helping kids. And I love building teams and trying to win. That's what it's all about.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Building teams, giving kids confidence. Trying to get kids to understand what it takes to win and being on a team. You need everybody. You're not going to win without everybody. It never will happen.
True.
Right. And speaking of that, just to go back to Game 2 against the Red Wings, I mentioned it earlier, but Game 2 is the infamous hit that Scott Stevens, laid on Kozlov and skated back to the bench and, winked and did the "you're next." Now, I know how that probably made everybody on Detroit feel. How did it feel being a player, behind Scott Stevens and saying, man, I got to step my game up to that level? That's Scott Stevens. We've heard plenty of stories from Grant Marshall and Cam Jansen and other, Ken Danico, about Scott Stevens' intensity. But I would just love to hear, what your reaction was to seeing that, live, in person, in game.
Yeah,
boom.
I was actually back checking on that play, and Kozlov came across the middle. And that's no, and you can't step. Scott Stevens, no one can do what he does. That guy, he was the best. And people ask me questions all the time about that team in my early days with the Devils. And that guy never took a day off, and he could have took days off whenever he wanted to. He never was late. He showed up on time. He worked his butt off. He led by example. Didn't say much, but when he talked, you bet your butt you listened. And to this day, he's a good man. He's great. Like, to show you what type of person he is, I forget how many years ago it was, but they took the budget away from the Brick High School hockey team, and I was trying to raise money. I had a short window. So I called Scotty up and said, listen, they took the budget away from the Brick High School hockey team. If it wasn't for them, the Brick Hockey and Brick High School, I wouldn't even be playing hockey. And he goes, what do you need? I said, so let's throw a clinic together. He came down, did a clinic, showed up on time. He did not leave till he signed everyone's autograph. He studied on the ice all the time. He signed extra pictures. The guy's incredible. He's awesome. And you know what? Every single one of his hits are clean as far as I'm concerned. And, the old adage is never skate across the middle of the ice with your head down. And definitely never skate across the middle of the ice, make a pass, and admire your pass. You're going to get hit, and it's countless amounts of times that he just timed it perfectly, and that the best thing ever is when you watch it on video now, when he's sitting, leaning on the bench with his one arm and he points and says, you're next. And you think about that team we had in 95, Scott Stevens, we had Mike Peluso, Randy McKay, Bobby Holig, not that he fought, but Jesus, you know what I mean? Claude Lemieux, who, as far as I'm concerned, if they did the Hall of Fame by playoff hockey, he should be in the Hall of Fame. No question about it. No question about it. Best playoff player, one of the best playoff players ever, man. And the hardest workers ever. He's a guy that every kid and every parent should watch his videotapes of how hard he worked every single game, every single shift. Kenny Danico. Holy cow, we had 5 or 6 guys that were just tough as nails. The whole team was, but we're talking like nasty tough, like those guys. Right. And they had Joe Kosher over there. They had, you don't get to the friggin' finals without having a tough team, especially back then. But for him to say that and nobody did anything, that was the best part.
Right. Yeah.
Nobody did anything. Nobody in the Red Wings did anything. That's crazy.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
That's why John Demare was the head coach and Larry Robinson was the assistant. And I know there was some friction between Scotty Bowman and them because Bowman was their coach at the Canadians all those years. And according to them, they would have won 10 or 11 cups if Bowman wasn't their coach instead of 8. No, but they love that.
That's great.
But yes, Jim, is the best. He's the best. Great guy, great player. And just a guy that you want to be around, you want to have on your team.
Jim, in the Facebook Live, we asked the question, where's everybody from? People tuning in, Ocean Grove, Clark, Middletown, Berkeley Heights, Beacon Hill Club, and Cranford Hockey Club, Fairhaven. Everybody from all over the place is now tuning in from Jersey, watching this podcast. And also, if anybody has questions in the Facebook Live, Twitter, Periscope, YouTube Live, got a question for Jim, let us know. We'll try to get to that shortly. But I have one question from Matt. He says, Jim, any unique memory have playing with the Devils, something that we may not know? And also, he says, it's always been a pleasure speaking with you anytime he's run into you.
Yeah, actually, pretty funny, unique memory. Actually, my first ever, I got a couple of maybe, but my first NHL game, so my first year in the minors, get sent down, they were loaded up front, get sent down. Mm-hmm. I only played one game up my first year, it was against the Boston Bruins. And the last game in the minors before I got called up, we had clinched a playoff spot down there in Utica. And then 2 days later, I got called up to the Devils. We played the Bruins. And it was actually Marty's and I's first game together, first NHL game ever. Marty, who wore number 29, the trivia question, he wore 29. Yep. That was his and mine and his first NHL game ever. And we beat the Bruins, and we clinched a playoff spot that night. And then I got sent back down. I just came up for the one game. But, I don't know. There's tons of them. Somebody might not know. I don't even know. There's plenty. I'll give you a great story, but you know how your family, it's a family, right? So if you can't yell at your family members and fight with them, then kiss and make up, and you love each other and all that. So people always ask me stories. You got any good stories? So one time at the Brennan Byrne Arena, practice is over. Well, practice is over. Guys are just still out there messing around or whatever. And the only ones that were in the locker room were Mike Peluso, myself, and Claude Lemieux and Scott Stevens. And they got into an argument on the ice, came into the locker room. They took their shoulder pads off, helmets, gloves, and they were in their skates, shin guards, pants. They were so mad at each other. Mike Peluso and I were sitting there. We watched this. We're like, something's going to happen here. They both stood up and charged each other like bulls and went at it. And Mike Peluso, he's like, what do I do, Jim? So it was great. They went at it from the they were done, and then it was like over with. You know what I mean? And then, and then the rest is history. But that's what it's like being on a team and being friends with somebody. If you can't be honest with somebody, you're not going to get anywhere. And those guys, they did what they had to do. It's over with. That year, I can't tell you how many fights there were in practice. Any championship team I've ever been on, or teams that have gone deep into the playoffs, it's a long season. Teammates fight with each other in practice because they hate each other. Just, like your family, you're around them all the time. You're going to argue, then you kiss and make up and go from there. But that one was great. It was like, whoa, two big boys just going at it.
Yeah, that's funny. It's like the
heads down. I forget. Scott Stevens, it was crazy.
I forget who it was. It was that the St. Louis Blues team last year, as when they were in last place. They showed that video like constantly of God, I can't remember who it was. The two guys that got into a fight during practice, threw down, got into a fight, and they got into that huge fight. And then afterwards, when they win the cup, they show the two of them like hugging. Everything's totally fine. And they asked them afterwards, they're like, we saw you guys punching each other in the face. And they're like, yeah, that happens.
Yep. Yeah, it does. Like I'm telling you, it happens because that's the competitive nature too, and everybody's got to keep the other checks and balances because you cannot win a championship without everybody being on the same page, and it's a team concept, and you have to use everybody. When's the last time a team won the Stanley Cup without, using 4 lines and 6D and 2 goalies? Yeah. And even the extra guys, they got to be ready to come in and do their job. You see it all the time. Look at Mike Rupp, Game 7.
Mm-hmm.
What he did. He wasn't expected to play that game at all. Then he's a hero in Game 7. Stuff like that is what makes teams and organizations be successful, and that's how Matt McNabb started it way back in the day, and Lou took it to another level, and built the thing with all good team guys, and everybody knew what they were supposed to do.
I think Rupper was only in for Nieuwendyk, right? Was it Joe Nieuwendyk got hurt in that playoff run? Yeah.
Yep. And then that catapulted his career.
And like you said, it only takes that one play. It takes that one play to change everything. So you were saying, just like talking about like just chemistry and friendships and stuff like that. So who during that 95 run, who was like your closest friend during that team, or even your stretch, that early stretch of the Devils? Did you have anybody that you were like super, super close with?
Yeah, we were really close in the minors. It was, Brian Sullivan, Ben Hankinson, Kevin Dean, and I. Billy Guerin was down there for a little bit. Then he got up. I mean, he was 4th or 5th overall pick, so he was ticketed to go up before all of us. But it was great. We were. I mean, Claude Lemieux used to take because he was going through rough time. He was going through a divorce and all that. But he would take me, Chris McAlpine, a bunch of young guys into the city. So load up in his truck. He's great. But all those guys. Zelli was my roommate. To this day, he still doesn't know any English. 30 years later, it was just it was great. Everybody was more.
What a fun dynamic! A guy from Jersey and a guy that can't even speak English in the same room. The conversations that you guys must have had.
Oh, and he had the best personality, though. He had the best personality. But he just he didn't care he could learn English. It was great. And that guy, when he had that eye injury, because he should have had a 15-year career where he's getting 25 to 30 goals every year. That was terrible. When it was just a freak accident in practice, and he never was the same after that. But him, and Billy Guerin were my favorite lines ever. We had a little bit of everything. Aaron come down up and down the wing, shoot the puck. Zelli drive the net. I was a disher and just a good high guy and all that. It was just a good combination. That's the one thing about Jacques Lemaire and Larry Robinson. They knew how to put lines and D partners together and how to work the goalies. It was great.
Hey, Jim, I got a question for you. And you kind of jogged my thought process here as far as juggling lines. I'm not a big fan of it, but I'm old school. How do you feel about coaches constantly changing wingers and centers on different lines from game to game, shift to shift, whatever?
I guess it all depends what type of team you have. Like those first couple years in Jersey, 93, 94, it was the whole year basically. It was the crash line. They stayed together, Holik, McKay, Peluso. Then it was me, Guerin, Zelapukin. And then it was our checking line, so to speak, was Chorsky, Carpenter in the middle, and Riche. And then, our second line, which, was the first line, we didn't have line numbers, but it was, the first year it was Bernie Nichols, John McLean, and Lemieux. And then the next year, 95, they brought in Neil Broughton. So we had that consistency. But I've seen it work on both sides. You know what I mean? I personally like keeping the lines together, but I've seen it on both sides. It works, too, when you switch it up, and I think that's good to do at certain times. So later on in the season, you can see who works well with who. And again, but it all depends on what type of team you have and how it's going. Again, I've seen it work on both sides. Where coaches switch it up, and it's worked both ways.
Pete, do you have a question for Jim?
Yeah, this is not really a hockey-related question, but it could be. Being the organist, I'm part of the in-arena production team. So we do all the music. I play the organ. We do all the videos, do the warm-ups. Kevin Clark does all the announcing, announces the goals. Is there any one of those things that pumps a team up, pumps a player up, that really gets them going? Maybe before a puck drop, we'll play a certain song. Or is there anything that you could, give us feedback on that would make it better for you as far as in-arena entertainment?
Yeah, they should all go back to what the Boston Garden used to do and just play the organ the whole entire game, no music. They wouldn't play it for good, but they were the last organization, I think. They lasted the longest at just playing the organ all through the warm-ups, in between the whistle break, the periods. That's great. Look at the movie Snapshot. You know what I mean? The organist was a huge part of that movie. All that stuff. Yeah, right. There you go. Not during it, but at the breaks. But anyway, it's one of those. It's a huge part of it, and they've taken entertainment to a whole new level where it's. I don't like when they use the word sports and entertainment together. Sports are sports. Entertainment is entertainment. Keep it simple.
100%.
And the organ is the best part of Boston Garden in there. I mean, we played them my rookie year, my second year, 93, 94, 94, 95 in the playoffs. We beat them both years. We shut that place down, but it was the warm-ups, the energy in there with just the organ playing in a playoff atmosphere. It was great, None of this, you don't need music, you know what I mean? You need the organ.
You hear that, Pete? We need to make a petition. So next year, when the season comes back, that's it. Just straight up organ.
Or at least they should try it for a couple games, every now and then. Just do the organ during warm-ups, or, you know what I mean? Maybe not the whole time, because I guess entertainment now is sports. But, sports are sports, entertainment. Two different things.
I don't know. I was listening to the brass bonanza the other day. It was making me the happiest person in the world.
There you go.
Sweet.
Nice.
It's getting too much. That's what the minor leagues are for. All that crazy, wacky entertainment stuff, because you're trying to draw, I guess, more people. I don't know. You just don't need it in the NHL, Major League Baseball, NBA, NFL.
Agreed.
I guess cool stuff, but it's cool. I like that.
Lou about this. He did an interview where we talked about organ music, and he said, they try to reach everybody, but he said the same thing. He likes the way the organ brings, a certain feel to the game. But he said that, they're trying to reach everybody. So that's why we have all the other, because we have to reach everybody.
Yeah.
I think we lost.
I think he got frozen. We'll get Pete back. Oh, there he is. There he is. He's back.
I'm back. What, did you miss anything?
Jim, we got a bunch of questions on our Facebook page for you. We'll give a big shout out to Melissa and John over here, and a bunch of others are asking, because you are up in what's going on and, current with the NHL, the Devils have one big opening for head coach, and they also have an interim right now for GM. In your thoughts, in your mind, what do you think? Who do you think might be a good fit for GM and coach for the New Jersey Hockey Devils?
Well, Tom Fitzgerald sure put his time in, and he put his time in with a very good organization. I think you should stick with him because he's up to date on what's going on, especially, with this new generation of players. And again, he came up with a great organization, learning the ropes. So I would give him a shot. And see and go from there. As far as coach goes, now obviously Nasruddin did a great job, but you got to see who's out there. We've all heard, I'm sure you guys have heard, Gerard Gallant. John obviously we don't have the team that Vegas did, to play that style right now. We still got a lot of work to do, but I think they just got to keep building through the draft. I would give Tom Fitzgerald the benefit of the doubt, and just keep going with draft picks. It would be amazing if they can get, hey, not that we ever want to root for the Vancouver Canucks, but let's root for them to make the playoffs so we get another first-round pick.
Right.
And go from there, because you got to build through the draft, and you just stockpile those picks. All the best GMs build through the draft, all of them. And then they make their deals when they have to. And then when you build through the draft, you have those guys in the third, fourth, fifth round that pan out that maybe aren't high-end, but then you could trade and get something good for them, But any GM in the history of the NHL that's been really, really successful is built through the draft.
And what type of coach, being that you have this experience now coaching, what type of coach do you think would fit good with this young New Jersey team? We've heard from Sean Burke and Grant Marshall. He said he played with Gallant, as well. So what type of coach do you think this team actually needs to make that progression, those steps forward?
A coach that's going to teach them discipline and for sure accountability, even though they're going to make mistakes. And then you have to understand a player like Jack Hughes is high risk, high reward, and they don't have, what's the word I'm looking for? You have to have a coach that's going to understand that it's going to take a little bit of time here. They got to have patience, but hey, you know what? this day and age, you get it in their minds, you get their minds right and get everybody on the same page, you can win. They can win. Just go out there and play a total team game, and play on the right side of the puck. A guy like Jack Hughes,
look at what St. Louis did.
Give a little more leeway to a guy like Jack Hughes because he's so skilled, and Husher maybe, but a coach is going to teach them, hey, the better defensively you play, the better your offense is going to be, because the NHL is a different beast. It's men amongst men. It's not junior. It's not college anymore. It's a whole different beast. So I think a coach is going to come in and be a combination of hard-nosed but understanding. And obviously, I'll go back to the days. I mean, one of my favorite coaches ever was Brian Sutter. I love Brian Sutter. Played for him in Calgary. People he would never be able to coach now. But I loved him. I loved guys that were more, in your face and, screaming and yelling. And it's like, and then the next day, it's a clean slate for everybody. A guy like Jacques Lemaire, necessarily scream and yell, but you knew when your dad raises his voice once or twice, but then he raises it the third time louder, you're in trouble. That's how Jock was, And then his favorite word was no. And that's what they need a coach to come in here and say, no, this is how we're doing it. No, you're not getting away with it. No. Again, a guy like Jack Hughes, gets away with a tiny bit more, but in the right way because he's so skilled in this and that. But you tell them, no, it doesn't work that way. You're not going to win. Look at all the coaches that have won Stanley Cup. For the most part, pretty much 99% of them, they say no. The team's not run by the player, run by the coach.
That's such a great point. And not to bounce back to you brought up a good question of like these kids coming into the league and they're basically going from like Jack Hughes is going for where he was dominating and just destroying people and could dangle around anybody, could stick handle around anybody. He comes to the NHL and he's getting tossed around because there's guys that are 60, 70 pounds heavier that have been playing in the league a hell of a lot longer and know, that little slick move that he normally does to get around a kid that's, 17, 18 years old is not going to work on a Grizzly veteran that's in the NHL. Thinking about that, when you went to the NHL, Scotty brought up a great point. You broke a ton of records in New Jersey, and going into the NHL, what was that transition for you when you were like, damn, like I'm not playing like with college kids anymore. I'm not playing with high school kids anymore. I'm playing with like the big boys. Like, what was that transition for you like?
It's something you have to adjust to. Like I said, people ask me this all the time. I was the best in high school and travel as a kid in New Jersey. Broke all the records. I went to college. I was Lake State's all-time leading scorer. Broke records there. And then I signed pro. I was a leading scorer in Utica for 2 years. Then I would get called up just for the power play. And then I get called up fully, and I was on the line with Guerin and Zelapukin, still an offensive player. But then after a little bit there, hey, you realize, holy cow, when you're not that offensive player anymore, I guess one of the best things happened to me was having a coach like Lemaire, learning everything. And some people say it was one of the worst things for me because he took away my offense. But no, you learn sooner or later. People don't understand how good Joe Sakic is, how good Steve Yzerman is, how good Wayne Gretzky is, how those top-line centers, they don't understand that their whole career, the other team's whole game plan is to stop that one guy. And they still couldn't stop them the whole career, And obviously I wasn't able to do that at the NHL, but I found a niche where I could be a great third and fourth line guy, kill penalties, take faceoffs, and the coaches knew if a first or second line guy went down, I could fill in no problem because I had the skill to do that. So many guys that at 26, 27 years old, they get on the third, fourth line, they whine and bitch, and then they're out of the league. I ended up playing until I was 40 because I just loved playing. I love being on teams that helping teams trying to win. I had won a championship at every level: high school championship, national championship, college. Obviously Stanley Cup in the NHL. But it's one of those, I just loved playing and being on a team, and all I cared about was winning and helping the team win. And when you take that attitude, I believe that's the way to go, and I've seen, you can show any sport. You show me there's so many talented guys. I don't want to rip on anybody, but I'm not going to name any names, but there's so many talented guys out there that have never won a championship. And if your best players aren't your best guys both on and off the ice, you don't stand a chance to win a championship. That will never happen. Never say never, but that will never happen. If your best players aren't your best players both on and off the ice, It's not happening.
That's such a great point. And I hope Jack Hughes takes that transition of understanding. He said some, it's like you watch a transition of a player as a fan, and you hope what you're saying comes true, right? You hope that the guy goes out there and he kind of figures it out and he understands the game and he kind of gets used to it and adapts and doesn't feel like it's, the league is wrong and not me kind of mentality that, they're able to kind of adapt and overcome. And Jack Hughes said a lot of really cool things towards right before all this stuff happened, where he said, I need to go and work on my shot. I need to work on this. I need to work on that. It was a lot of like, I need to get better. And that was one of the good things to hear as a fan, because it wasn't like my team needs to get better. My wingers need to be better. My defensemen need to be better. My goaltender needs to be better. It was, I need to be better. And I thought that was cool, Yeah,
if you look at a perfect example is Joe Thornton. We went first overall to the Bruins in 96, 97, whatever it was. I think he had 55 games, 3 goals. I know this because he had 3 goals and 4 assists in 55 games. But what do you do? If he goes back to junior, he would have skated through everybody again, had 180 points, and it turns out he went through his struggles his first year, and that was on a hell of a lot better team that the Devils had this year, overall. That turns out to be one of the best players of all time. So Jack Hughes has the right attitude. He comes from a great hockey family. You could tell that his parents, did a great job at raising him just by the way he handles himself. And I truly believe he's going to be fine, and he could be the Devils' all-time leading scorer when it's all said and done. Okay, he's only 18,
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Kevin, do you have a question for Jim?
He's only 20. Did he just turn 21?
I think he just turned 21.
He just turned 21. I think Pavel Zacha is 22. Jesper Bratt is they're all under 24, 23 years old. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a
Kevin,
I could turn around real quick for the Devils.
I'll ask Jim real quick. What was it like when you finally had to stop playing and you had to hang the skates up? How difficult was that for you?
No, I wasn't at all. I came back to the Devil. Lou brought me back when I was 39, 06, 07, the last year of the Brendan Byrne Arena. And then he wanted me to start working for the Devil. I said, yeah, Lou, I really want to play one more year at least, So then I knew that Holmgren with the Flyers tried to trade for me a couple times. So I was like, Lou's like, I agreed with Lou. I said, Lou, let me see what's out there. He goes, okay, don't do anything, but you let me see what's out there. I didn't call anybody but the Flyers because I could still live at home and play for them and all that. So I called Homer. I said, listen, I know you tried to trade for me. I didn't use my agent. I just called him up, got his number, and said, I want to come play for you. He goes, listen, we're over the cap, but if you come into training camp and do what you do, you're on the team. I said, no problem. I called Lou. I said, Lou, listen. He goes, who'd you talk to? I said, only people I talked to was Paul Holmgren with the Flyers. He goes, whoa, don't do anything. He goes, don't do anything. Okay. He goes, let me see what I can do. The Devils were over the cap as well. Plus, I was 39. I was turning 40. And it was like a week went by. Holmgren's like, Jimmy, I need an answer because we're looking at, a couple other guys that fit the role that you would. You know what I mean? A veteran guy that can kill penalties, play in a third or fourth line, be a good team guy, blah, blah, blah. We got a young team. We're on the verge of doing something special here. And then I give it another week, and Lou's like, just give me some more time. Then Holmgren finally said, Jimmy, August was rolling around. He goes, I need an answer. So I said, Lou, I called Lou. And Lou and Holmgren are good friends. I said, Lou, I got to give Homer an answer. I didn't call him Homer at the time. I said, I got to give Paul Holmgren an answer. He's like, he goes, all right. He goes, Jimmy, there's nothing I could do. He says, I said, all right, I went down without a contract, made the team, and the rest is history. So then we go to the conference finals that year. I had a great role. I'm 40 years old. We lose to Pittsburgh in 5 games. And I'm thinking, shoot, I can get another year at 41. So I go back to camp again with the Flyers at 41. And I didn't really work out that hard that summer. Didn't make it. They had a bunch of young guys anyway. I went right from there. Right, my son was at a tournament in Westchester, PA, which was like 25 minutes. Or no, it was about a half hour from the Voorhees skate zone. So I said, all right, I just went right from there to coach my boys. I mean, I played for 17 years. I never thought I'd play in the NHL. Never thought I'd play college hockey, let alone the NHL for 17 years. So it wasn't that hard for me to just say, okay, that's it.
Man.
I milked it for all I could is what I'm saying.
Just
You got a
hold
question
on
for
as
Jim?
long as you can.
One more question for me. So I just finished binge watching The Last Dance. Okay, so there was camaraderie, there was animosity, there was controversy. When you were on that team in '95, you had Marty, you had Kenny Danico, you had Scott Stevens. Did you guys hang out? Did you smoke cigars? Did you play golf? Did you have dinner? And did that camaraderie transfer to the ice?
Of course, yeah, any team like that. I mean, any team that goes far and all that. Like I said, your best players have to be the best players both on the ice and off the ice. And, we always had our get-togethers and all that, and, had your fun here and there with at home with the families and on the road. You want the team dinners and everything. And Lou was huge on team dinners on the road and team breakfast on the road. There's a lot of things that people don't know about Lou Lamorella. I mean, we had breakfast on the road for everybody. Team dinners all the time. He took care of the guys. He took care of everybody, and we made sure we hung out all the time. And all winning teams do that. That's another thing. They're really close. But yeah, we had plenty of that.
That's great.
Very cool. Jim, we've got a chance and opportunity here to talk to so many former players, and also Doc Emmerich and Chico from announcing. Bruce Driver, Grant Marshall, Sean Burke, they all seem to have very funny stories about one man in particular, number 3 from the New Jersey Hockey Devils, Mr. Ken Danico. So I was just wondering, as we're wrapping up our podcast here, if you happen to have just any good one Dano story that you can share with us, because he is the enforcer of the podcast. He is our enforcer. So we'll just hope we have a good Dano story.
You know what? I got a great on ice story, but I mean, there's a couple off ice stories. Dano's the best. Nobody. I don't think any human being has a bad word to say about Kenny Danico. He's just one of a kind. He's a great guy. Give you the shirt off his back at any time. He's a guy that I could call at 3 a.m. if I'm stranded. He'll come out and get me, or anybody for that matter. He's just a great, great human being. So, but a great story on ice. It's funny. I was just thinking about this the other day too. So we're playing the Buffalo Sabres in 95, 96, and it was at the Meadowlands, Brendan Byrne Arena, and he at that point, his career, he's not fighting much anymore at all. But certain guys did certain things and pissed him off. He'll step in or whatever. So Rob Ray running around that whole game, running around for the first period, running around the second period, and he had enough. And his exact words, it was the funniest thing ever. He goes, "Hey Razor, you ready to step up a weight class?" Basically telling Razor, slow down. They dropped the gloves and he one-punched him. And this is Rob Ray. One of the toughest guys in the league. Dano says, "You ready to step up a weight class, Razor?" And he had to do it, and he one-punched him with a left. It was unbelievable. Just the way he said everything. I mean, that's how much hockey changed, though. There's basically no more of that. But off the ice, we were hurt at the same time one year. It was just he and I, and we would do our rehab in the morning. It was my shoulder and his knee. And he was rehabbing to not have surgery on his knee. I had surgery on my shoulder, and so we'd rehab together. And there was nobody else hurt. We'd be done by 11:30 every morning, and then we'd go to can you see? We'd go to lunch at noon, 5 hours later, for a few weeks. But it was great. He's just a good guy. I can't tell you where we went, but he was just a really good guy. A lot of fun. Everybody's happy that he's doing great. You know what I mean? Everybody.
Yeah.
I tell the story all the time. Kenny Danico, draft pick, he's all heart and soul and determination. 3 Stanley Cups, Mr. New Jersey Devil, 21 years. Yeah. Incredible story. Yep. I got another story about Dano, and he'll appreciate this one. So I get Jacques Lemaire he had never been a healthy scratch in his career, Kenny Danico. And Jacques Lemaire was going to healthy scratch him. And Kenny was going crazy, like, what? And he pleaded with Jock not to scratch him, not to healthy scratch him. Jock said, "Okay, if you're on the ice for 1 goal against tonight, you're not playing the next game." He was so bad that game, had one of his worst games ever, but he wasn't on the ice for any goals against. And he never scratched him. But I mean, the funny story those are stories that people don't know and don't hear. So but Kenny's
funny enough,
and he's so. I love him because he's so him. He's not trying to impress anybody. He's great. Some people don't like him on the team. Like, he's great. He's Dano. He's just so authentic and real. That's what you want.
And you know what's funny is like those are the stories that we like to talk about on here. You know what I mean? Like those stories behind the scenes. Like heck, we even have like Ranger fans tuning in to listen to our show because they just want to listen to the hockey, especially like what's going on now in the world and all that kind of stuff. But I have to tell you this: when we get back to normal and we're all able to come back, and Scotty, you'll have to come out to the East Coast for this. My father-in-law owns a bar called Tavern on the Rocks in Rockaway, New Jersey. We're gonna have to get all of us get together and have a nice beer and celebrate the return of hockey, the return to normal life. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Or go to lunch. You know what I mean?
Yeah. 5-hour lunch.
I like that lunch idea. That's a good one.
A little liquid lunch.
This is great, guys. I appreciate you having me on.
Jim, thank you so much for coming on. Also, I just want to let you wish your sons good luck, but I actually went to Penn State. You got to go to a whiteout game when you're up there. Yeah.
We're looking forward
Grant Marshall and I talk about it all the time. He's a big Ohio State fan. I said, one of these days, Penn State, Ohio State, whiteout game in Happy Valley. There's nothing like it. The last question of the night before we let you go, Jim, and the social media has gone crazy because of my T-shirt back there. Since you're a Jersey guy, is it Taylor ham or pork roll? We won't hold it against you.
It's pork roll and cheese.
Yeah. You see, half the room groaned and half the room applauded that.
Yeah,
that's why this answer will never satisfy anybody.
I know. Pete, why don't you take us out?
I can guarantee you there's not one menu in New Jersey where it says Taylor ham and cheese sandwich. It's pork roll and cheese sandwich.
Yeah, I agree.
Straight from Jim Dowd. I love it.
5-1 on 5-1 on there.
Well, thank you, Jim, for coming on to Let's Go Devils podcast. Thank you for everybody that's joining in. Till next time, let's go Devils.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Jim.
You're welcome. Thanks, guys.